Hi, my name is Harry Tie, and welcome to Odejuma. Odejuma is an Ishekiri farewell that loosely translates to till tomorrow. But for me, I look at it as a promise that there is so much more in life to look forward to. And this interview-driven storytelling podcast is rooted in that promise. So as you take the time to listen, I want you to feel that as we go deeper with folks from across the Black diaspora, exploring the adventures, resilience, joy, and the ordinary moments that change their lives, that you would have a good, hearty laugh or you find something to sit with. Because there's power in the stories of everyday people, and these stories are worth telling. Hey y'all, welcome back to Odejuma. My name is Harry Tie. Excited about this episode. I'm very grateful that you're joining us today. If this is your first time, please use the like button and follow wherever you're listening to your podcast, whether it's Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, wherever. Give us that follow and also rate the podcast if you can. If you're watching on YouTube, also use the subscribe button so you get notifications when we have new episodes. I am super excited about my guest today. Her name is Zola Dee. Zola Dee is a playwright, screenwriter, and performer, and a 2026 recipient of the National Art Club's Kesselring Prize for Playwriting for her play Homegoing, which centers on hope and on people who choose to dream a better world into existence. Her work moves through themes of home and displacement, Black Americana, African diasporic spiritual traditions, queerness, and the imagining of freer worlds for the Black collective body. Originally from Winston-Salem, North Carolina, and a Cal Arts graduate, she's built her career in Los Angeles before moving to Minneapolis. And her best-known play, Gunshot Medley Part 1, was Ovation Award recommended and published in Routledge's Contemporary Plays by Women of Color. Her work has been developed with the National Black Theatre of Harlem, the Playwright Center, East West Players, and Edinburgh Fringe, among others. She's a 2025 to 2028 Jerome Hill Fellow and a resident playwright at the National Black Theatre of Harlem. Y'all, that is such a heavy resume. So let's just welcome Zola Dee. Hi, Zola. How are you doing?
Hi, I'm so good. I'm so excited to be here today.
Yes. I'm excited to have you here. It's so very refreshing to be speaking with someone who is just doing amazing work, in the artistic space. So thank you for coming on. Like I said, I just read your bio, and I'm sure like the viewers are like, "Oh my god, oh my god!" It's very heavy. But before we dive into your work, I want people to know who the person is behind all of this, heavy bio. So who is Zola? Taking away all the, going beyond the bio and taking away all the accolades. How would you describe yourself?
For sure. I think that my bio of how I describe myself is changing all the time. Right now, I would say Zola is a banjo player. She is a girl who loves to take walks around the lakes in Minnesota. And she's a Southern gal. Like, I grew up in North Carolina. All of my family is from South Carolina, so I'm a Carolina girl. And yeah, I think those would be the best ways to describe me.
Shout out to the banjo player. Have you always played the banjo, or is this something new that you just discovered?
It's new. So when I wrote my first play, Gunshot Medley, I wrote in the playwright's notes, I was like, a banjo must always be played with this play. And that led me, because of that play, and they were using a lot of like African American folk songs, Appalachian folk songs, like I did a lot of research, and that's when I found out that the banjo is an African instrument. And so that's why I was like, it has to be in this play whenever it's played. And that began my fascination. But no, I officially started learning the banjo a year ago. So like February 2025.
Oh, wow. And now, like, because I know there's like a video on your Instagram of you playing it like a professional and stuff. So
It seems like professional, but I'm still very beginner, very, very beginner.
Okay. Shout out to that. And you said you are a Southern girl through and through from the South. How did you go from the South to the cold to the cold town or the cold city of Minneapolis? Well, and in between, because I know there's LA, there's
Yeah.
Berlin. So what was that journey like going
Yes.
to all these different parts of the world?
So, I grew up, again, like I said, North Carolina girl, spent the summers in South Carolina with my grandma in Sunset. Oh my God, now I'm forgetting the name of the neighborhood my grandmother lived in. But yeah, Sunset Park. Yes. But it's interesting. Like, I actually went to North Carolina School of the Arts, their high school program. At that time, it was free because, my parents didn't have that much money. And when I went to college, they was like, how are you paying for it? Like, how are you going to pay for this? Because we can't pay for it. So anyway, I went to high school at University of North Carolina School of the Arts. It was a boarding school for high schoolers, and it was on the university campus. Actually, at that time, I thought like my goal was to get into UNCSA. I was like, I need to be an actor at this college. Like, this is the only school I want to go to. And in the middle of my audition for college, the fire alarm started going off. Like,
Wow.
yes. And like, how old was that 16, 17-year-old me was like, what do I do? Like, it was like that, like, I'm in the middle of the monologue and I'm like, what should I do? And I thought, I was like, well, a real professional will just keep going. So I kept going. I did not stop. I went right through that monologue. And when I got my rejection letter from University of North Carolina School of the Arts, I was like, it's because I did not stop during the fire alarm. But who knows? Like, I think actually what ended up, how life does, like, the best possible thing happened for me. So I ended up, right? Like, I just feel like sometimes life is just like, you know what? I want you to go this way. And I ended up actually going to the Unifieds in Chicago. And for those people who don't know, Unifieds is when they like have all of the colleges go to either Chicago or New York. And I think they do it on the West Coast as well. And you audition for all of the schools all at once. So I auditioned for BU, I auditioned for DePaul, I auditioned for California Institute of the Arts. And when I auditioned for California Institute of the Arts, Nataki Garrett, who was running the acting for undergraduates, was a Black woman. And that was the only audition that I had gone to that like a Black woman was running the program. And I also had, like, at the time I was a visual artist as well. So I had brought some of my paintings with me. And she was like, you will fit in at Cal Arts. This place is for you. And I didn't even see the school. It came down between Cal Arts and the U of M for acting. And I went to the U of M callbacks and I fell and slipped on black ice. And I was like, my southern butt cannot not be up here in the cold. So I went.
Oh my gosh.
Yes. But as life has it, I lived in California, went to school in California, started my career out there. And then during the pandemic, I was like, I'm going to apply for everything because I need something different. And I was actually at that time working at the Pasadena Playhouse. And I was like, I'm doing the art admin thing, but I'm not feeling very much like an artist. So I need something else. So I applied for everything, applied to the Fulbright, I applied to grad school, and I applied for the Playwright Center. And I was like, whatever I get, I will go. And the only thing I got was the Playwright Center. And it was the mini voice fellowship at the Playwright Center. And and that's how I got here. Here.
You're always going to be here? Is that what you said?
I thought I was only going to be a year. I was like, I'm going to do 1 year in Minnesota and I'm going to take my butt back to California. And here we are.
What would you say has kept you here this long?
Yeah, I mean, everyone knows, like, even though I am a Southern girl, like, I love California. Like, I am a proud transplant of Los Angeles, but it's expensive. It is so expensive. And the cost of living in Minnesota is just like, I mean, you can't really compare. It's like I can have this beautiful 1-bedroom apartment and that's what I would be paying, to live with like 2 people in a hot, trendy neighborhood in LA. And then there's so much arts funding. So I got a second fellowship which was the Jerome Fellowship through the Playwright Center. And then that's when I thought, I was like, okay, after this, I'm gonna go back to LA. Again, as life has it, I ended up in Berlin because my life was kind of falling apart and I didn't know what I was doing with my life. And then I came back, and that's when I found out that I got the Jerome Hill.
Mm.
And yeah, now I have this Jerome Hill, and I have to either be in Minnesota or New York, and I'm here. I'm here until at least 2028, baby.
That is so cool. And I feel like looking at your career trajectory and all these amazing things that have happened to you, I feel like what is the lessons that you're taking from, trusting and believing in your gift a little bit more? Because I feel like I don't know. I don't want to assume that it's the pandemic that made you be like, okay, fine, let me take some time out and apply for these things. But the fact that you've been able to apply and, go forward a lot more, what lessons have you learned, from this experience so far?
Yeah, I mean, I think what I've learned, and I don't even know if I can say this what I learned, but what I am also currently learning is like how to balance the optimism and the hunger and the drive to be an artist with the realities, right? Like going back to like when I moved out here to Minnesota, I thought I was going to go back to LA. And then, after the pandemic, prices started rising and rent started going up. And I was like, that makes no sense. And I thought I was going to go write for film and TV. And then the strikes happened. And then Hollywood is like constantly collapsing right now. So it's like, I know the dream of what I want, but also like the realistic, or being realistic with how the world is shaping out to be. It's like Minnesota provides so much, and I have to be realistic that like, of course, I may want to go back to LA just because that's where I got my career started, my roots. A lot of my college friends are still out there, but Minnesota also has a lot to give, and it's like also it's so beautiful during the summer. The winters are
Yeah.
hard for me. I don't know if they're hard for you.
They're hard for me too. I'm from Nigeria. The winters are hard for me, but the summer is the best thing ever.
And it's like,
Yeah.
I just need to be someplace warm. I'm like, I tell people, I'm like, my ancestry is not set up for this, like in the winter,
Yeah. I agree. If I can do the summers here and the winter someplace else, it'll be great. But sometimes I feel like there's also a lot more really cool programming that happens in the winter here.
Yes.
That, I'm like, God, I guess I'm here now.
Yeah. Well, and it's a hard thing too, where it's like, because everything has to go indoors, then so many things pop off in the winter,
Yes. I know the feeling. You said in your bio, and I read this a little bit, and I want you to break it down a little bit for me. You talked about themes of home and displacement, Black Americana, African diasporic spiritual traditions, queerness, and the imagining of freer worlds for the Black collective body. So what does that mean in practice, according to your artistic practice? How does it help your creative process? What does it look like
Ooh.
in reality?
Yeah. Okay. I may have to ask you to remind me each one, because I'm like trying to go through and be like, which one is which?
Yeah. We can start from the things around that I'm really fascinated about personally, as someone who is from Nigeria, the African diasporic spiritual traditions piece. Where did that connection come from for you, and why was it important that you want to reflect that in your work?
Yes. So I was raised Baptist. I actually was just having a conversation with someone the other day. I was like, I mean, I'm from the South. Was I raised Southern Baptist? Is that totally different? Like, am I Southern, or am I just Baptist from the South? I don't know. But, I was raised Baptist, and I was raised in the South. And I was raised in the Black church. And like, I mean, I'm talking about my grandmother, like every time we were sitting down at the table, we had to do grace, but you also had to say a Bible verse. So it's like, I remember my grandmother's Bible verse. I remember my Bible verse. Mine was always the 23rd Psalm. And so I was very steeped in that. And then as I got older, just because of how the Black churches, especially in the South, how they treated queer people, I was like, I don't really, I just had a schism. I had a moment where I was like, I need to step away from this. And so I went down into all these different like Buddhism and Hinduism and like New Age practices. And it wasn't until there was this moment where I was like, wait, what were my actual ancestors? Like, what were they doing, you know?
Yes. Yes.
And it was actually Terrell Alpha McCraney's In the Red and Brown Water. I was in a production of that when I was in college. Actually, because I was actually an actor in college. I wasn't a writer in college. And that was, I was playing the character in the script. Her name is Shun, but Oshun. And so I was playing Oshun, and we had a Cuban teacher at the school named Marissa Chivas. And after that show, she would always be like, Ochun, Ochun. Like, she would always see me and call me Ochun. And so then I just got way more into like, what is this? Like, and that was from a more like Lukumi, Santeria aspect. And so I went digging. And then the first play I wrote, Gunshot Medley, I was writing it. And when I originally wrote the piece, I had found 3 graves. And they had the names Betty, Alvis, and George on it. And it only had their death dates. And at the time when I wrote that piece, it was right after the Charleston massacre had happened. And people were putting up Confederate flags all over the South. And so I wanted to write this response piece. And so I wrote these characters, Betty, Alvis, and George. And I had this other character called the High Priestess of Souls. And I just named her the High Priestess of Souls. And then what ended up happening was a friend of mine read it and they were like, this is Oya. And I was like, it is. Like, 100%. Like, the character was bringing like the storm and like the wind, and all the characters in the play, Betty, Alvis, and George, they would talk about the wind when they would talk about the High Priestess of Souls. And I was like, this is so Oya. And like, Oya watches over the dead. She's the gates to the cemetery. And so it started with like playing the character of Oshun and then Oya. And I just realized as time has gone on, like Oya has just become such a like kind of fixture in my life. Like I have not, what's the word? Like I haven't had an initiation into Ifa or Isheshe or Santeria or Condomble, but yeah, I have a deep connection to Oya. And I love her very dearly. And from that, it's made me look even more into like, Bakongo cosmology and the Congo. And so just thinking of like the diaspora and how, enslaved Africans who are brought to the Americas, like what were those traditions that like carry forward?
Yeah. It's very interesting. You talk about queerness as the thing that questioned how you were engaging with your spirituality. And I think that for a lot of people who are queer, myself included, I feel like my first step in deconstructing my faith came from, finally accepting that, okay, I am a queer person. And what does this mean for me in this framework of Christianity as we understand it in the 21st century? What does that look like, right? And that informing how I start to move and engage. How would you describe your relationship now with your personal faith? That your personal faith and the faith that you grew up with as a child, that somehow is gonna always remain because it's part of like your culture and there's familiarity there. And you talked about saying grace with your grandmother during dinner. So how do you balance both, and what does that look like for you in this moment?
Yeah, that is a really great question because I think it's always a constant um back and forth of like you said, finding comfort in it. Like I still repeat the 23rd Psalm, but as I've gotten older and I've been developing my relationship with spirituality, it's like it's actually right behind me, but I keep like an altar with like my grandmother's photo on it and my grandfather and some of my aunts and uncles. And sometimes when I will say the 23rd Psalm as it is in the Bible, like the Lord is my shepherd, I shall not want. And then sometimes I change it up and I'm like, the ancestors are my shepherd, I shall not want, And I really have like started thinking more about what it means to have a connection with my ancestors. And like, I think a lot of African diasporic religions have that deep connection to the ancestors, that's what I'm really interested in. So again, it's like sometimes I'm taking the Christianity and I'm like mixing it with the like, okay, this is how I'm gonna actually venerate my ancestors, and I'm gonna use the Bible, which some would say that's just hoodoo, right? So
That's real. That's real. How's your family responding to you shifting in that regard? Like, are they very open? Are they?
I don't know. You'll know after this comes out. But it's like, it's one of those things where I don't talk about it because I know how much it means to them. I know how much Jesus and the church, all of that means to them. And for me, I don't necessarily need to have that conversation with them because it's like, I'm going to do me and I'm going to let you do you. I know just my family, I mean, for a lot of them, I think even talking to your ancestors, like for them, that would be demonic, right? Or they would say things like that. And for me, it's like, that's not, it's really not. This is what our ancestors have been doing for the last 300, 400 years. To call our ancestors a demon is like so crazy to me. Yeah, so we don't really talk about it.
Yeah, and sometimes you're right. Sometimes you just let people do what they do. As long as we're not hurting each other, we're in love, we're moving in love. I think that's the only way to go. I want to talk about the Black Americana piece. I know there was a lot of conversation when Beyonce released Cowboy Carter around Black Americana, what that looked like. It was a thesis for days on social media. What does Black Americana mean to you, and how does that also reflect in your work as well?
Yeah, again, another great question. I think that Black Americana for me, and it's going back to like, actually, it kind of goes back to the home and displacement, right? So you have all of and I think the home and displacement for specifically Black folks in the Americas, because something that I noticed when I was going to Europe, and even sometimes here in the United States, especially in the Twin Cities, where you have a whole diverse population of Black folks from West Africa, from Somalia, right? And so I get this question, where are you from? And especially when I was in Europe with the like African diasporic population in Europe, they would always be like, where are you from? And it'd be like, from the US. And they'd be like, but no, where are your people from? And so it would be like, well, there's this thing called the transatlantic slave trade. So I don't know fully where they are from. And they would always kind of be like, almost like kind of sad, like, oh, you don't know where you're from. And I always thought it was so interesting, especially with African American people from the United States, because we don't have that conversation with Afro-Brazilians or Afro-Cubans or Jamaicans, right? If a Jamaican says I'm from Jamaica, they're just, okay, you Jamaican, right? But with African Americans, it was always this kind of thing of like, oh, you don't have a home. So there's always this thing, and I feel like with W.E. Du Bois, how he talks about the double consciousness, it's like the Blackness, the Americanness, it's always kind of warring between each other. Now I've forgotten the beginning of the conversation what you had asked.
I think about how Black Americana relates to your work, and I think you were talking about exploring African American heritage.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, I think it's all of that. I think it's like W. Du Bois is like double consciousness, this Americanness, this Blackness that's warring, because it can't really settle within one body. And I think that's what Black Americana is. And I think Black Americana is Black folks being denied their Americanness for so long. Black folks built this place, right? It's like we built so much of America just with our like blood, sweat, and tears that, the denial of our Americanness, whether it be the banjo, whether it be like all of these little things that have contributed to society. Like I'll play the banjo and I have people in my comments, like especially when I was posting on TikTok, and they'd be like, why are you playing this white instrument? Or like people will find out I play the banjo and they'll be like, that's so random that you played the banjo. And it's like, no, it's not. It is from West Africa. Like, this is my instrument. This is my people's instrument. So for me, that's what Black Americana is. It's like always competing with our Americanness because we've been denied that, and then reclaiming it.
Yeah. And I also feel like those converse are very unproductive. I feel like when you say, "Oh, where are you from?" I'm from here. I have, like, you have a lineage that goes decades, centuries, right? I think a century is 100 years. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So
like on ancestry.com, like actually my white relatives, because it goes back to the 1700s in the Carolinas, you know? And it's that weird thing where you're like, yeah, we've been here a really long time. But I will say I did get my African ancestry DNA test done with my dad's family. And they trace you back to like a tribe in Africa, and it's the Zola people in Guinea-Bissau and Senegal. So I'm like, well, if I go to one place, at least one day when I go to Africa, it's gonna either be
for real. Yeah. I mean, I tell people all the time because I feel a little torn being in the living here and having to engage in diaspora work sometimes. It's like it's very unproductive. It doesn't make any sense. African Americans are from here. Nobody has the same ethnicity, genealogy, genealogical makeup. The African Americans have is very unique, is very specific, and this is the land that their ancestors toiled and built, and so this is where they're from as well. And there has to be a level of respect that we accord, when we have those conversations. You know what I'm saying?
No, 100%. And like, I'm actually, I've been developing, like, very loosely, we're just in the beginning phases. I'm developing this piece with a Nigerian director, Ibi, in New York. And we talk about this all the time. We're like, we do not care about these diaspora wars. Like, this is so ridiculous. It's so ridiculous.
Yeah. That's pretty cool. Thank you for sharing that piece. I want to go a little bit further into how you went from acting and now you're doing you're now a full-time writer.
Yeah.
What was that transition for you like? And I'm sure in your mind you imagined that was what you were going to be or what you were going to do. You had those auditions, you did all those monologues, and now your career is moving in a different path. What was that transition like for you? And would you ever go back to acting?
That is a great question. I love this podcast. Like,
we try over here. Yeah.
I mean, it's so funny. As a child, I thought I was going to be Alicia Keys, right? So I was like, I want to be a singer. I wanted to play the piano. I started playing piano lessons. I took piano lessons, I think, for like 6 years, and then had the braids and everything. And I thought I wanted to be a musician. And I got into like acting and visual arts, but I was always like, I'm going to do music and I'm going to be a singer. And that kind of led me into musical theater because I was like, oh, I can sing and act, right? And then I was like, I'm going to be in musical theater and I'm going to be on Broadway. Like, I remember in middle school, I had to do one of those, like, what's your career going to be? And I brought out like a whole poster board that was like, this is what it means to be a Broadway actor. And this is what I'm going to be one day. Yes, I really was on that. What's funny is, like I was saying, through that audition process, because I went to North Carolina School of the Arts, the head of the acting program for high school, he literally said to me, he was like, so you can't dance. You are not going to be able to go to like musical theater training undergrad, which in hindsight, I'm like, why would you say that to me?
I mean, everybody can learn. You can learn how to dance, I'm guessing.
Yes.
That is so interesting.
Rhythm. It's just like, I don't pick up choreography really well. So he was like, yeah, I just don't really see that for you. And so he tried to put me in this like straight acting path, which was what kind of led me to Cal Arts. And I didn't know it at the time, but Cal Arts was an experimental theater school. Like, I'm talking about like us ripping our clothes off on stage and us like you doing really experimental stuff. And
Y'all did hair?
What?
Did y'all do hair? Because that's the only musical I know where they take off their clothes.
No, we didn't even do musicals. Like if we like actually the 1 year that there was a musical at Cal Arts, it was the Three Penny Opera, which I think is by Brecht. I could be wrong, but yeah, like that. We weren't even doing musicals. Like it was just like straight acting, like sometimes saying nonsensical things. Anyway, yes, and I was getting cast in all of the most experimental ways, like the absolute, which I didn't understand that either. And I had a meltdown. I think it was like my second year. I had a meltdown, and I was like, I hate this. Oh no, it was my third year, and I was like, I hate this. Like I want to write something that feels or I want to be in something that feels like I don't know, like I can relate to, that I really love. And I had a lot of people urging me to, do it. They were just like, okay, then write something you love. And so at Cal Arts, we had this thing called the New Works Festival. And basically, they gave us all of the like theater spaces, gave students theater spaces. I think it was like a week or 2 weeks at the end of the school year, but we basically could just put up our own work. And so that's when I put up Gunshot Medley, and then Gunshot Medley was kind of a hit at the school. And then they were like, the school basically was like, we need to take this to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. So then it went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Then I had a run to LA, and I was like, well, I guess I'm a playwright now.
Mm. And a good one at that, you know?
Yeah. And it kind of all fell into place. And then after a while, like I got into LA. I had a manager right after school for acting. And I was like, I don't want to do this rat race. Like, I really want to kind of control my own destiny. I want to be able to have my own time. And so that's when I got into writing and doing arts administrative work. And the funny thing is that once I moved to Minnesota, people kept asking me to act in things. So I've been acting more in Minnesota than I ever did in LA. And it's because people found out I was an actor, and they're like, oh, yeah, can you do that?
How was acting being here in Minnesota?
It's been interesting. Like, I mean, truly, like when I graduated Cal Arts, I think I may have been in one play outside of college, but I really kind of like ended my acting career. And then, like I was saying, like I had a whole year where I didn't know what I was doing with my life. I like left. I thought I was leaving Minnesota, and I just ended up being in Berlin for like as long as my tourist visa let me be there. So it was like 3 months. And I was there, and I got an email that was like, can you audition for The Color Purple? And I was like, okay. And it was Theater Latte Da's production of The Color Purple. And I auditioned, and they were like, okay, well, I kept going back and forth with them, sending tapes from Berlin. At one point I was in Paris, and I was trying to like be in this Airbnb in Paris doing this self-tape. And then they were like, yeah, we want to give you the role of Squeak, but will you understudy for Celie? And I was like, no. I was like, absolutely not. Like when you think of like Celie, you think Cynthia Erivo, right? You know?
Yeah, yes.
I've not acted since I graduated school in 2017. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm not prepared for that. And they were like, well, like if you accept this role, like you have to accept the understudy for Celie. And they're like, but you'll probably never go on. And I was like, and then I did. I went on multiple times. It's interesting because after that I was like, I never actually need to act again. Like I fulfilled a childhood dream. I have performed as a lead in a musical, and I don't need to do that.
That is a lot of work. That is a lot. And I saw that production at Cheddar Lacheda. I think Nubia Monks was
Yeah, she was Celie.
Yeah, and I think it was a good production. So you know, y'all did your big one with that. So you've done The Color Purple. What other shows have you done in Minnesota?
So I have not been, that was like the show that I did, but I've been,
Uh-huh.
because I do still work in arts admin, I'm like, I can't really go and do a show. So a lot of times I'll come into the Playwright Center and like read for them. I've done a lot of readings with Theater Latte Da, and then I do some reading. I've done some reading at the History Theater. So the acting has not been like full production acting, but like
Yes.
I'll come in and be that person that's helping them with like a workshop or like a play festival or something like that.
Okay, that's cool. So you're a working artist and you're doing arts admin. You have this fellowship, and then you're resident playwright at the National Black Theater in New York. How are you balancing all of these? This feels like, this feels like a lot.
I don't even know. Like I literally was just telling someone I really went through a massive burnout a couple of months ago. I mean, I'm just kind of clawing myself out of it, but I was here in Minnesota and I'm on the board of my friend's like theater company performance art called Dark Muse, and we're having a board meeting, and she saw me and she was just like, I have never seen you like this. Are you okay? Like you don't seem well. And I was like, yeah, I'm not. Like, and I just like, that's all I could say is like, I'm not.
Yeah.
And it's because I think being a full-time artist is already hard. And then like having a full-time day job is hard. And then just trying to be a decent human being who goes to the gym and sees their friends, like, how do you make the time? And so, sometimes I feel like I'm kind of failing in a different category. Like, I haven't even written in a couple of weeks now, and I'm like, I really got to get back to working on that for the National Black Theater. But then, it all kind of ebbs and flows, and I think it's like right now I'm just trying to figure out, how do I rest? How do I find time to take care of myself? Because if I don't take care of myself, like, and that's what happened with the burnout, I wasn't really taking care of myself. But if I can't take care of myself, I can't do the other things.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I'm trying to figure it out right now too.
That that's real. That's real. And congrats on the National Black Theater. I've always wanted to go there. Every time I'm in New York, they don't have anything showing. I've been trying to. I'm gonna be in New York twice this year, and they don't have. I think the window between both is when you have something. I think it's a John Legend show.
Yes, the
Yeah,
Imitation of Life show. Yeah.
yeah, I'm just like, I really want to see that, but congratulations on that as
Thank
well.
you.
And so, Homegoing was reading for the National Black Theater, and that's what won the prize, if I'm correct,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. So the National Black Theater, they have this I Am Soul residency. Basically it's like they commission us, but it's more not a commission in the sense of like we're going to have you write the play and then we're going to put the play up. It's more like we're going to give you this money so that you have the space to dream up the play. And then they do have like a development process with it, so you get 229 hours and then a public presentation. It's not a full production, but a public presentation. And yeah, I remember when I came to them, I gave them a bunch of different ideas of what I wanted to, but I didn't really have a true clear idea. And then I got the fellowship or the residency. And that's when I was like, okay, I know I want it to take place during Reconstruction, but I also want it to be a love story, like a Black love story. But then, all of these themes of mental health started coming into the play as well. So it's this big amalgamation of a lot of different things going on. Like even in
Mm,
our last workshop, like some of the actors were like, there's a lot going on in here. And in a good way too, like a lot to feed the actors. But yeah, I think I'm really grateful for the Kesselring because I knew I was throwing a lot into one play, and to see that like taking the risk of being like, okay, I'm going to do my big one and it to be honored in that way. Cause I remember even telling people like when I first had actually the first idea I had for this play, it wasn't even about Reconstruction. I was just like, I have the idea of rice falling on a tin roof. Like
mm.
that is like the image I have. And I don't know where that's going to go, but that's it. And so that's the very last image in the play, actually, is just this like rice falling on the tin roof. And when I finished the play, I remember like texting some of my friends and I was like, I think this is the best thing I've ever written. Like, I think this truly is. And so it was this crazy thing where like I knew it was the best thing I had ever written. And I didn't necessarily need it to be validated by anybody else, but to have that validation with the Kesselring, I was like, I knew I was right. I knew this was the best thing I had ever written, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and you won the prize for that. So congratulations on that. Are we ever going to see the play ever come into reality?
Yeah,
What's the plan for it?
That is the goal. It's like everything I write, I want to see it up and alive. I think that what I'm realizing, I mean, it probably won't have a full production with National Black Theater just because I know how they're set up. It's probably, that would be a couple of years down the line because they're kind of like booked until 2028, 2029 of just like all of the playwrights they're servicing.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, we're trying to see of like what potential producing partners. I'm constantly talking to my agent about that. And so we'll see. We'll see.
Fingers crossed. I'm very hopeful that, that works out for you. I have a bunch of rapid fire questions for you to answer, to get to know you a little bit better. We've heard about your journey. We've heard about your career, and your craft. We heard about your award-winning play. Now I want to just know you a little bit, in a much more informal setting. So the first one is, what are 3 songs on your playlist right now?
I don't even know if I have 3 songs. Okay, I just have to rapid fire. Okay, so it would be something by Dijon, maybe The Dress by Dijon. I'm listening to a lot of McGee right now. Probably You Got It by McGee. And then Olivia Dean, Man I Need.
Okay, shout out to Olivia Dean. Is there a playwright that you absolutely adore their work? Like everything they've done, you're like a fan of? And what is the play that they've written that you really absolutely love?
Yes. Wait, sorry, can I just go back to Olivia Dean real quick?
Yes.
I was an Olivia Dean fan before anybody else was an Olivia Dean fan. And the fact that I don't have tickets to her concert, I'm really upset about that. So I just...
Was he sold out?
Yes. And I'm talking about like sold out so quickly that I was like, you know what, y'all, I've been following this girl for years now. Y'all are not a fan like I'm a fan.
I'm sure you would get tickets. What happens is a bunch of, you know how these things goes, a bunch of people get on there, buy the tickets and resell them. But what happens is on the day of, the prices will drop. And so you can get tickets on the day of that will be cheaper. So don't give up just yet. You're gonna see her live for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so your second question of like a playwright whose work that I absolutely love. I mean, I would say like one of my biggest inspirations was Susan Laurie Parks. Love Susan Laurie Parks. I mean, I love Alicia Harris's work. I just love like Black playwrights who are just thinking outside of the box. Brandon Jacob Jenkins.
I love Brandon Jacob Jenkins. Yeah.
Good. Just pushing like the work forward in a way that's really interesting. Yeah.
Yes, I did. I have a question, but I'll ask you that offline. What is a place that feels most like home right now?
Most like home. This is going to be so random, but during the winter, just for a little bit of the winter, I was in LA and I was going to this co-working spot called The Meadow in Los Angeles. And I feel so crazy, but I was like, I love this place. And I would tell like the people who work there that I was like, I love this place so much. Because whenever I walk in, the people would be so nice and so sweet. And I got so much work done there and it was a beautiful space. Anyway, it was just so beautiful. But I would say The Meadow felt like home. And then also, but I would say it's because it was in Highland Park, which is a neighborhood in Los Angeles. And I used to live in that neighborhood. And so that neighborhood, like, there's just something about that neighborhood for me that I'm like, that feels like my little, like, transplant LA home.
Okay, cool. What is a ritual that you do before you write? One ritual. You don't have to give us all the things, but what's one ritual that you do before you write?
I don't have a ritual. That's like, I don't. And I say that because like a lot of times for me, it's like, and which what I'm trying to get better at is to just have a practice of writing. A lot of times the writing comes like, I'll just start hearing character voices speaking and I'll just start writing it down. Right. And so right now I'm even just like carrying a little booklet that like if I'm out and about, I'll just like write down like what the character.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if I have one to begin writing, but I will. This is really crazy. And only my like one of my super close colleagues, friends, homies know this, but like I know I've written something good if I start crying. And so that's kind of my gauge of like, cause I was like working on Homegoing and I'm not going to spoil it for anybody,
Yeah.
but I'll say there's this character and she's in a mental health crisis. And I thought that this play was going to be, because it's 3 parts, and I thought it was going to be the lead character Presence. Her mom is going through a mental health crisis. And I thought all 3 plays was going to be like Presence throughout her life, kind of like grappling with her mom's mental health issue. And, I'm just going to spoil it. And then I realized by the end of the first play, I was like, Misha, the mom, I was like, she's not gonna make it. She don't make it through this. And I just like started bawling and I was like, that's so emotionally true. And that's it.
Yeah.
And that's when I wrote that scene and that's the ending. And not the full ending of the play. There's other things that happen, but like, yeah. So when I have a deep emotional connection, I know it's real, it's true, and it's good. And it reminds me actually of my acting training, like Nataki Garrett. When we were in class, she was like, if you don't feel it, your audience doesn't feel it. And I think I feel that way in my writing as well. It's like, if I don't feel it, like, how do I expect other people to feel it too?
That's real. That's real. Who is your dream collaborator?
Like in the theater, just
it could be anywhere. It could be theater. You can give multiple. You can give theater. You can give film. You can give writer. You can give whatever collaborators are coming to you. You can give them to all of us.
Okay, I don't know if this is a cop out, but I'm gonna just say it because it's the first person that popped up in my head. I want to write the Beyonce musical. When she's ready, when she's like, it's gonna come, call me. Like,
yeah. I put on TikTok. Someone talked about jukebox musical. Was in a, they'll say, tell me if you were to create a jukebox musical. Tell me what, give me your other songs. And I came up with like the other songs for whatchamacallit, for God, my head is before a Beyonce musical.
Yeah.
Like, like what song will start, what song will end Act 1, what song will start Act 2, what song will end Act 2.
Her career is so expansive that I'm like, I think that like actually her career is so expansive that like just the task to put together a jukebox musical of Beyonce's music, like that would be so fascinating. Like so fun. Yeah.
It would be so you will have so much material to work with. I think the piece will be, the hard work will be your work, which is coming up with the book.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
That's where the work will be.
Because literally Renaissance could be its own jukebox musical. Yes. Like Cowboy Carter could be its own jukebox
Cowboy Carter is his own jukebox musical. That is his own. And I remember thinking about this. I'm like, do you want to even pull from Destiny's Child catalog? Because you can't tell the Beyonce story without Destiny's Child. So you got that, and then you got like this career that has so much. I'm like, damn.
I know.
From your lips to God's ears. I want you to write. I want you to write it because we deserve a Beyonce musical. I think that we definitely deserve that for sure.
And I will say, when I was working in film and TV, it's so funny because it never came to fruition. But I wrote like an Earth, Wind, and Fire, basically like movie musical, because I had been working with this like producer who had the rights and then they lost the rights. But yeah, so I'm like, I can do it, Beyonce. I've already done the Earth, Wind, and Fire movie musical that never got made, but we'll get this one made.
Yes, we're gonna send this to Parkwood. Get Zola. Zola's got an award. Put some respect on her name. She can make this happen. Let's call her in. Let's do it. Okay, what is your guilty pleasure?
Well, I'm like, how real can I be on this podcast?
As real as you can be. As real as you can be.
My guilty pleasure right now is a indica, a nice indica, and getting in the bathtub, like literally taking 2 hits of a nice joint and then getting in the bathtub in a nice bath with magnesium salt. Yeah, that's my guilty pleasure.
That's the way to go. I'm here for it. I'm here for it totally. This has been such a great conversation. I want to ask you before I let you go. There are a lot of folks who want to get into art, into the arts, who want to be writers. What advice will you give emerging writers who are trying to find your way in this career? Because it's actually very cutthroat, you know?
Yes. Yes. Find your people. Like truly, truly, truly find your people. And I think the best career advice I actually got, so I didn't even like, it's so funny. It's like, I'm only in my 30s and it's like, I'm looking back on my 20s and so much has happened, right? And
Yeah.
even before I moved to Minnesota, I had gotten a fellowship through the Playwright Center, and it was called the oh my god, no, mini voice, no, my Core Apprentice. That's what it was. It was called the Core Apprentice. And through the Core Apprentice, at that time, they gave you basically like a mentorship with playwright. And so the playwright who was my mentor was Dominique Morisseau. And at that time, she was writing on Shameless in Los Angeles. And I would like meet her at a Panera Bread and like North Hollywood. And then she would bring me in to the rehearsals of Ain't Too Proud. And so I was like learning on, being on the job.
Yeah.
But one time I asked her, I was like, what would you say? And she was like, build with the people around you. Don't reach out to the Dominique Morisseaus, the Alicia Harrises, the Brandon Jacob Jenkins and ask that, like, try and be part of their cohort. Find the people around you and build with them. And I think that, and then she started being like, because, the people she was building with at the time where she was an emerging playwright, she started naming some guy and she was like, yeah, and he would bring in his like, they were teaching artists and he would bring in his like music, and come to find out that was like he was working on In the Heights and it was Lin-Manuel Miranda, and so she was already building with the people around her who were striving for the same things, and now they're like the American theater. And so I like to think about that with me as well, but it doesn't even necessarily have to be other theater artists. Like I look at Taylor Jasper at The Walker, right? And like Taylor, that I know that like, they're a colleague of mine and we're friends, but I feel like I know like one day we're going to be at the same level of like, you're going to be curating in New York and I'm going to have my play like up off Broadway or on Broadway, and we're going to be hitting it at the same level, and I think that's why it's important to build with the people, or even you, Harry, like you doing this podcast, like us elevating each other, because you're going to go on and do amazing things. And so, yeah, I think that's
real.
Yeah.
Build with your own people is the core, is the message. I really appreciate that. And I really appreciate you coming on, giving us your time. This has been such great conversation. So thank you so much. Thank you, Zola.
Thank you. This is amazing.
I'm glad you liked it. And if you have been watching or listening, thank you so much for staying with us till the end. Don't forget to like, follow, share, subscribe, do all the things. This has been such a great conversation. I will share all the info for Zola in the description so you can connect and know more about her work. Thank you so much for listening or watching. Odejuma.